Irish levy would have been known to have worn yellow and black style tunics. This would have indicated of their status as subjects of the said lower class citizens. They would have also worn short trousers, indicating of their type of use as farmers and everyday laborers. However, these were very common around the regions of Ireland. The footwear that was worn was mostly that of a style that would have been used up until the late 20th century. These would have been extremely fashionable and used especially highly in the Irish countryside. However, there is a lot of accounts of them not wearing this type of footwear on the battlefield, mainly because in the harsh terrain of Ireland, where muddy ground was a death sentence. A tightly woven tunic would have been worn over the regular everyday tunic. This we do have accounts of, however we do not know how this would have been made. This style of armor was known to have kept being used by Irish military units all the way leading up to the 16th century. However, there is various little information on how it was made. This style of armor was actually known to actually stop the cuts of a sword, however the impact could still be felt underneath. And as well, it could not stop the thrust of a blade. The small utility knife, as you see, could have been used for everyday work, such as around the home or as well when on the go. These could have been used for everyday usage and sometimes were used in a close quarters fighting on the battlefield. The helmet was a very rare type of equipment that the Irish levy could have used. However, if they could, it would mostly likely be that of a bowl-shaped style helmet like you see here. However, these were extremely rare, so we don't have much evidence to say the least, if they all wore one. As stated by an Irish priest known as Donovan of Ulster, who actually wrote stating that only 1 in every 100 men could afford a said helmet. The war club was a highly usable weapon in the major forms of battlefield usage. This style weapon could have been even fashioned by this said utility knife. In fact, these weapons were highly used mainly because these were known as the poor man's axe, or some accounts even stating the poor man's sword. Working axes were known to be used by the said Irish levy. However, there is very little information of what these could have looked like. Mostly my belief is they could have been of a smaller type of design, such as that as a hatchet style, rather than a elongated variation, as we don't get any accounts of them using two-handed version of axes until the time of the Viking Age. The Irish levies hardly ever used a sword, but when they did, it was most likely that of a short sword design variant. How short is very little known. Some believe 18 inches, others believe a 14-inch blade, but it varied from user to user. Some believe that most of these swords could have been passed down from father to son, as one, some of the sword blades actually have a variation of Roman-style iron material, leading to the belief that this type of material might have been passed down over the centuries. Others believe that most of the swords that were used by the Irish levy could have been taken in raids, such as that with the King of Dalriada raiding the region of the Picts. If now y'all know what Dalriada looked like, it looked like this, and it came from the northern ends of Ireland in the region of Ulster. And of which, Dalriada is where we get the later Kingdom of Scotland. But we don't exactly know, for say, of what some of these short swords look like. All that we do know is that only 1 in every 50 could actually afford one, or even use one. So in such, it was very, very rare to see them use it. The shields by this point in time had actually started to become more and more of a round-shaped design. Now, it did determine on the difference of the user, as there are accounts stating that they had a mixture between 15 and 30 inches in diameter, leading many historians to wonder if these were actually meant for said one-on-one style fighting or formation style warfare. The spear and javelin are one of the major type of weapons that were used by the Irish levies. These would have been extremely commonly used. Javelins were used for everyday type of use of hunting, while the spear was probably perfect for boar hunting. However, there is actually accounts of different shapes and sizes of spearheads they were using, so we don't exactly know what some of them did look like. One historian even stated that some of them even had arrow fletchings on the side and were as small as throwing darts. Some historians believe that this is actually identical to the Roman plumbata, but there is very little information of this, and there is only one account. So, probably not exactly accurate. The bow was actually a very useful weapon on the battlefield, and as such, Irish levies were known to use them. However, we don't know what some of these arrowheads did look like, as some of them actually looked a lot more different than we understand today. But there is a very little chance that they did use them in wide use, as it's accountable that stating that on the aftermath of a battle, that it was mostly javelins that covered the field of the battle, rather than that of the arrow, leading to some historians to believe that the arrow was probably not used as much on the form of warfare at this point in time. The cloak was a major form of everyday clothing and usage on the said Irish kingdoms. As well, the cloak pen would have actually been used to hold the cloak in place. One can actually tell by the person's wealth just by the cloak pen itself. Everyday Irishman was on the march, he could actually use the cloak as a form of a blanket. This is why when the everyday Irishman was actually on a campaign, he could actually use his cloak as a form of blanket against the harsh Irish weather.
Herren with enough for us na farge finnog is a Herren